This audiobook-style session with the name before you reply is created and shared by Create Your Ironmind, but what matters now is what you do with it. Communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. It shapes your relationships, your work, your confidence, and the way people experience you. It is not just talking or sending messages. It is connection that feels natural, clear, and meaningful. In this session, you will learn how to choose words that open doors instead of closing them, how to listen to understand instead of listening to reply, how to speak with clarity and calm confidence, how to manage timing, body language, and nerves, how to tell stories people remember, how to handle tough conversations without stress, how to build stronger connections, and how to use communication as a tool for success in every area of life. You will also learn how to ask better questions, how to speak with emotion without losing control, how to stop overthinking, and how to communicate in stressful situations with clarity and grace. None of this requires complicated theories or jargon. It requires attention, practice, and a willingness to improve one conversation at a time. This is training. This is discipline. This is where you create your iron mind through the way you speak, listen, and show up. Chapter 1: Words Shape Your Life. Words have power in ways most people underestimate. Every time you speak, you leave an impression. At work, with family, with friends, and even with strangers, your words can open doors or close them. Some people command respect when they speak, and others struggle to be heard. Often the difference is not only what they say, but how they say it. If you speak with confidence, people trust your message. If you sound unsure or unclear, people question it. Some people draw others in because their words are calm, clear, and steady. Others push people away without realizing it because their language creates confusion, tension, or discomfort. If you want to understand how serious this is, think of your words as tiny choices that stack up into a reputation. People rarely remember every sentence you said, but they remember how your words made them feel. They remember whether you brought clarity or confusion. They remember whether you made things easier or harder. They remember whether being around you felt safe, stable, and respectful, or tense, chaotic, and uncertain. And here is the uncomfortable truth. You do not get to choose whether your words shape your life. They already do. The only choice you have is whether you shape them on purpose. Think about the last time someone's words stayed with you. Maybe a teacher encouraged you at the right moment. Maybe a boss gave you direction that changed how you worked. Maybe a friend said something simple that lifted your spirit. The right words at the right time can inspire and guide, but careless words can leave wounds that take years to heal. Sometimes it is not even the big moments. Sometimes it is a passing comment, a joke that landed wrong, a sarcastic remark you meant lightly, a short reply you sent when you were tired, a message you typed too fast without reading it twice. People often remember the tone more than the content. They remember the sting or the warmth or the cold distance. You might not realize it, but your words also teach people how to treat you. If you speak like you are unsure of your own value, people will often follow that lead. If you speak like you expect to be dismissed, some people will dismiss you. If you speak with quiet self-respect, many people will mirror it back. This is not because the world is fair. It is because humans respond to signals. Words are signals. Communication is not just speaking. It is being understood. Some people talk constantly yet say very little. Others speak briefly and leave a deep impact. The goal is to express yourself so people listen, understand, and respect what you are saying. Clarity is one of the rarest forms of respect. When you speak clearly, you make it easier for others to understand you. You remove the burden of guessing. You remove confusion. You remove the need for them to interpret your mood, your intent, and your meaning. Most misunderstandings do not come from evil intentions. They come from lazy language. They come from vague phrasing. They come from the assumption that the other person should know what I mean. They do not, and that is not their job. It is your job to make your meaning clear, especially when it matters. Your words also shape how you see yourself. If you keep saying, "I am not good at talking to people," you train yourself to believe it. If you repeat, "I always mess up my words," you strengthen that identity. Negative language limits growth. Positive language builds confidence. If you want to improve how you communicate, you start by changing how you talk about yourself. This is not about repeating empty affirmations. This is about precision. There is a difference between a sentence that describes a temporary state and a sentence that becomes a permanent identity. "I am nervous sometimes when I speak" is different from "I am bad at communicating." One leaves room to grow, one locks the door. Pay attention to the labels you use on yourself. Every label becomes a script, and every script becomes behavior. If your script is "I am awkward," you will walk into conversations expecting awkwardness. If your script is "People never understand me," you will speak with frustration and defensiveness, and you will create the very outcome you fear. So you train your language to tell the truth without making you small. You can say, "I am working on speaking more clearly." You can say, "I want to improve how I express myself." You can say, "Give me a second to think and I will explain." Those are not lies, those are disciplined sentences, those are growth sentences. Words shape relationships too. When you choose them carefully, you build trust. People want to be around those who make them feel valued and understood. If your words are harsh, vague, or dismissive, you push people away without intending to. People also notice patterns. If you are constantly negative, others may avoid conversations with you. If you complain often, people stop listening. But if you speak with sincerity, warmth, and steady energy, people enjoy talking to you. They seek your advice and value your presence. Trust is built through small moments. A calm reply when someone expects an argument, a kind correction when someone makes a mistake, a thoughtful question when someone is struggling, a simple "I hear you" when they need to feel seen. But trust is also destroyed through small moments. A sharp tone when you are stressed, a careless assumption, a dismissive whatever, a joke that makes someone feel stupid, a reply that makes them feel like a burden. If you want a practical test, ask yourself this. After you speak, do people feel clearer or more confused? Do they feel calmer or more tense? Do they feel respected or brushed off? Your words create an emotional environment. Some people walk into a room and their words raise the temperature. Others walk in and their words lower it. Confidence is not about big words or sounding formal. It is about speaking in a way that makes people pay attention. A simple, well-structured sentence can carry more impact than a complicated one. Clarity prevents people from guessing what you mean. A strong communicator does not hide behind complexity. A strong communicator chooses the simplest form that still carries the full meaning. That is discipline, that is control, that is leadership. And here is something most people miss. Confidence is often just the absence of unnecessary apology. Some people apologize for their existence in every sentence. "Sorry to bother you." "Sorry, this might be a stupid question." "Sorry, I am probably wrong." If you begin every message by shrinking, you teach people that your words are optional. You can be polite without being small. You can be respectful without being weak. You can be humble without deleting yourself. And sometimes silence is better than speaking without purpose. Words spoken in anger can damage relationships in an instant. Once something is said, you cannot take it back. Thinking before speaking is one of the most valuable habits you can build. If what you are about to say is not helpful, it may be better to pause. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is space. It is a tool. It is a sign that you are not a slave to impulse. The strongest communicators are not the fastest responders. They are the most deliberate responders. They know the difference between an urgent moment and an emotional moment, and they do not confuse the two. When you are angry, your words become weapons by default. That is why discipline matters. In conflict, your job is not to win the sentence. Your job is to protect the relationship while still protecting the truth. Sometimes the strongest move is to pause and say, "I want to respond well to this." give me a moment. That sentence alone can prevent damage. In your professional life, clear communication earns respect and creates opportunity. Employers value people who can express ideas clearly in meetings. People who speak with conviction are often seen as more capable. Communication also shapes personal success. Whether you are presenting, negotiating, or talking casually, how you speak affects outcomes. There are people who work hard and stay invisible because they cannot express what they are doing, what they need, and what they see. There are also people who are average in skill but rise fast because their communication is sharp. That is not always fair, but it is real. Clarity is leverage. If you can explain a complex idea simply, you become valuable. If you can deliver feedback without creating defensiveness, you become trusted. If you can speak under pressure without collapsing into emotion, you become reliable. People promote reliability. People hire clarity. People follow calm. So begin with awareness. Notice how you speak. Notice how people react. Notice whether your message lands. Small adjustments create major improvements. Use words that uplift. A genuine compliment, a thoughtful response, and a kind tone strengthen relationships. The quality of conversations shapes the quality of relationships. If you want stronger connections, be mindful of how you speak, show interest in others, listen carefully, and respond in a way that shows you care. Awareness sounds simple, but it is a serious practice. It means you start reviewing your own conversations the way an athlete reviews performance, not to beat yourself up, but to learn. After an important conversation, ask yourself, was I clear? Ask yourself, did I speak with respect? Ask yourself, did my tone match my intent? Ask yourself, did I listen or did I only wait to talk? This is how you create your iron mind in daily life, not with grand speeches, with tiny disciplined improvements. Even wording choices can change everything. Instead of you are wrong, try I see it differently. Instead of that is a bad idea, try here is another way to look at it. You can be direct and still respectful. Honesty without control is not strength. True honesty is clarity delivered in a way people can accept. There is a difference between being truthful and being reckless. Some people call recklessness honesty because it sounds brave, but it is not bravery to say something in the harshest way possible. That is impulse. Bravery is saying what needs to be said in a way that keeps the door open for understanding. Directness with respect is rare. That is why it is powerful. Words matter in conflict too. When emotions run high, people say things that escalate. A calm, well-chosen response lowers tension. Every conversation strengthens or weakens a connection. Speak with patience and purpose. What you do today shapes the relationships and opportunities you experience tomorrow. And remember this, every time you speak, you are training yourself. You are either training clarity, patience, and self-control, or you are training impulsiveness, vagueness, and emotional reactivity. You do not rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your habits. So treat your words like training. Speak with intention. Pause when needed. Choose clarity over noise. Choose calm over ego. Because the words you use today are not just sounds in the air, they become the life you live. Chapter 2. Listen to understand, not just to reply. Most people listen to reply. They hear words, but their mind is already preparing an answer before the other person finishes. This creates misunderstanding, weakens relationships, and makes conversations feel one-sided. Real listening means giving full attention, understanding the message, and responding from that understanding. Good communication is not only about talking, it is about making people feel heard. When people feel listened to, they open up more, trust more, and respect you more. Genuine listening is rare, which is why a good listener stands out. Too many people nod along while waiting for their turn to speak. Listening requires effort. It means reducing distractions and paying attention to words, tone, and body language. Many people think they listen well, but they only catch parts while their mind jumps ahead. Real listening requires patience. It means setting aside your own thoughts for a moment. People can sense when you are not truly listening. If you check your phone, look around, or plan your next sentence, the other person feels unimportant. Over time, they share less and eventually they may stop talking to you altogether. But when you make eye contact, nod in understanding, and respond in a way that shows you absorbed what was said, connection strengthens. Understanding goes beyond words. People speak through posture, expression, and tone. Someone can say, "I am fine," while their voice lacks energy and their eyes look distant. If you only hear the words, you miss the real message. Interrupting is one of the clearest signs of poor listening. It tells the other person their message is not important. Practice pausing before you speak. Give space for the other person to finish. This shows respect and gives you time to absorb what is being said. One reason people struggle to listen is that the mind moves faster than conversation. Thoughts race ahead into judgments and opinions. Break this habit by being present. Focus on the words being spoken. Resist the urge to prepare your response too early. Ask follow-up questions. It proves you listened and that you want to understand more. Simple questions like "What happened next?" or "How did that make you feel?" create deeper conversations. Some conversations require empathy more than advice. People often do not need solutions first. They need to be heard. If you rush into fixing, they may feel dismissed. Acknowledge emotion before offering direction. Say, "That sounds frustrating," or "I can see why that upset you." Validation makes people feel understood. The real test of listening appears in disagreement. It is easy to tune out when you disagree, but that is when listening matters most. Instead of preparing a counterargument, focus on understanding their perspective. You do not need to agree to show respect. Respect strengthens relationships. Listening also includes silence. Silence gives space for thought. Many people fear quiet and rush to fill it, but a pause can be powerful. It shows you are considering what was said instead of reacting. People are drawn to those who make them feel heard. This skill grows with practice. In your next conversation, focus completely on the other person. Avoid distractions. Listen not only to words, but to the emotions behind them. Over time, your conversations deepen, your relationships strengthen, and your understanding expands. Chapter 3: Speak clearly and get to the point. People respect clarity. When you speak, your words should be easy to understand and your message should be direct. Many people talk in circles or add unnecessary words. Others hesitate and weaken their own confidence. Clear speaking means getting to the point without confusion, hesitation, or excess. Clarity is not a personality trait, it is a habit. It is a choice you make in real time. It is the discipline to stop hiding behind extra words, stop padding your message with unnecessary explanation, and stop hoping the other person will figure out what you mean. If you want to be understood, you have to do the work. And most people do not do the work. They speak the way they think, in fragments, in unfinished ideas, in half sentences, in scattered points. Their words reflect their internal chaos. They are not trying to be unclear, but the result is still unclear. That is why people interrupt them. That is why people tune out. That is why their ideas get ignored. Clear speaking is a form of respect. It respects the other person's time, attention, and mental energy. It says, "I value you enough to organize my thoughts before I hand them to you." Start by knowing what you want to say. Many people struggle because they speak before organizing their thoughts. Take a moment to gather your ideas. Clarity in thought creates clarity in speech. Before you speak, ask yourself a simple question. What is the point? Not what do I feel, not what do I want to vent, not how can I sound smart. The point, the one thing you want the other person to understand, remember, or do. If you cannot answer that in a sentence, you are not ready to talk, you are ready to think. A useful structure is this: begin with the headline, then add the reason, then add the next step. You can say, here is what I need, here is why, here is what I suggest. That is clarity, that is leadership. Confidence affects how your words land. If you speak too softly, mumble, or second guess yourself, people will not take your message seriously. Confidence does not require being loud. A steady pace and calm voice can be more powerful than volume. Confidence is not volume. Confidence is certainty and direction. You can be quiet and still be firm. You can be calm and still be decisive. What kills confidence is unnecessary weakening language. Words like maybe, kind of, sort of, I guess, I am probably wrong, I am not sure, but these phrases have their place when you truly are unsure, but many people use them out of fear. They use them to protect themselves from rejection. But every time you soften your message out of fear, you train people to treat your words as optional. Instead, practice speaking as if your message deserves space. You do not need to dominate, you need to be steady. Choose simple words. Some people use complex language to sound smart, but it often creates distance and confusion. Simplicity is strength. Communication is not about impressing with vocabulary. It is about being understood. Simplicity is not dumbing it down. Simplicity is precision. It is the ability to express the same idea with fewer moving parts. It takes more skill to be simple than to be complicated. Complicated speech is often camouflage. People hide behind big words because they are not sure what they mean or they are afraid of being judged, but the strongest communicators are easy to follow. They make complex ideas feel clear. They do not show off, they deliver. If you want to test your clarity, imagine you are explaining your point to someone intelligent who is tired. If they can understand you in one pass, you are clear. If they need you to repeat yourself 3 times, you are not clear yet. Slow down. Nervousness makes people rush, and rushing makes words harder to follow. Pauses help your message land and give the listener time to process. Speed is one of the most common clarity killers. When you speak too fast, you force the listener to chase your meaning. They miss details, they misunderstand your intent, they stop engaging. Pauses are not awkward, pauses are control. A short pause before a key sentence signals importance. A pause after a key sentence lets it land. When you remove pauses, you remove impact. Practice this. Say your point, pause, let silence exist for half a second, then continue. That small change can instantly make you sound more confident and more trustworthy. Tone matters. A dull tone can make important words feel empty. Natural energy and warmth keep people engaged. If you want people to care, you must sound like you care. Tone is emotional guidance. It tells the listener how to interpret your words. You can say the most supportive sentence in the world, but if your tone sounds impatient, it will feel like rejection. You can say something critical, but if your tone is calm and respectful, it can feel like help rather than attack. Your tone should match your intent. If your intent is clarity, your tone should be steady. If your intent is support, your tone should soften. If your intent is urgency, your tone should sharpen slightly without turning aggressive. Match your words to the situation. Some moments need professional structure. Other moments allow casual warmth and humor. Adjusting your language to the setting prevents misunderstanding. Context decides style. A message to a colleague is different from a message to a close friend. A serious conversation is different from a casual chat. People get into trouble when they speak in one mode all the time. They use jokes when someone needs empathy, or they use formal language when someone needs warmth. A strong communicator reads the room. They notice energy, they notice tension, they notice how open the other person is, then they choose a style that fits. Body language supports your message. If your words are clear but your posture is closed, people receive mixed signals. Eye contact, confident posture, and natural gestures reinforce your message. When words and body language conflict, people trust what they see. Your body can either support your message or sabotage it. If you say, "I am confident about this," but you avoid eye contact and shrink into your shoulders, the listener believes your body. If you say, "I am listening," but you stare past them, they feel dismissed. You do not need theatrical gestures, you need alignment. An open posture, a relaxed face, and steady eye contact make your message easier to trust. Small adjustments change how you are perceived. Avoid over-explaining. Repeating the same point in multiple ways can make people lose interest. A strong communicator knows when enough has been said. Be complete, not excessive. Over-explaining is often anxiety disguised as thoroughness. It happens when you do not trust your message to stand on its own, so you keep adding more. You keep talking until you feel safe. But the listener experiences it as noise. They lose the point. They stop paying attention. A helpful rule is this: say the point once, then support it once, then stop. If someone needs more, they will ask. Direct does not mean rude. Many people avoid clarity because they fear sounding blunt. But respectful directness is effective. Say what you mean with kindness. Directness is a skill, rudeness is a lack of skill. You can say no without crushing someone. You can correct someone without humiliating them. You can disagree without turning it into a fight. Direct communication is simply honesty with structure. It is truth delivered with control. In difficult conversations, clarity matters even more. When emotions are involved, it is easy to speak from frustration or anxiety. Slow down, choose words carefully, and focus on the main message. The clearer you are, the less confusion and conflict you create. When emotions rise, people stop hearing nuance. They hear tone, they hear accusation, they hear threat. That is why the main message must be simple. If you are upset, do not bring 5 points, bring 1. State what happened, state what you need, state what you propose. Then pause and let the other person respond. Clarity reduces conflict because it removes guesswork. Guesswork creates fear, fear creates defensiveness, defensiveness creates escalation. Ask for feedback when needed. Does that make sense, or what are your thoughts? Confirms understanding. Communication is two-way. A clear communicator checks alignment, not obsessively but deliberately. You do not need the other person to agree with you, but you do need to know they understood you. Sometimes they will nod while misunderstanding you completely. A simple question prevents that. How do you see it? What did you take from what I said? What would you do next? These questions reveal the truth. Practice in everyday moments. Ordering food, giving directions, and sharing small ideas are training grounds for clear communication. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. This is where most people fail. They only practice when it matters. They want to suddenly become clear in a high-stakes meeting while they live vaguely everywhere else. Do the opposite. Train clarity in low-stakes moments. When you send a message, write the headline first. When you speak, say the point early. When you explain something, cut your sentence in half and see if it still works. Practice one clean sentence at a time. Over time, clarity becomes your default. And when clarity becomes your default, people feel it. they trust you faster, they listen longer, they respect your words because your words are not a maze, they are a straight line. Chapter 4. Say the right thing at the right time. The right words at the right time can open doors, strengthen relationships, and prevent conflict. Poor timing can create confusion, frustration, or regret. Knowing when to speak, when to pause, and how to respond in different situations is a core skill. Timing is the hidden half of communication. Most people obsess over what to say, but timing decides how it lands. You can deliver the perfect sentence, and if you deliver it at the wrong moment, it becomes the wrong sentence. You can speak with good intentions and still cause damage, not because your message was bad, but because the moment was wrong. If you want to communicate like a disciplined person, you have to train your sense of timing, not as a vague gut feeling, but as a practical skill you can improve. Many people speak without thinking, responding out of habit. A few seconds of thought can prevent years of regret. Timing matters as much as content. Some situations need immediate response, others need patience. A rushed response in an emotional moment often escalates tension, but delaying too long can allow misunderstanding to grow. There are two common timing mistakes. The first is reacting too fast. This usually happens when emotions are high. Something hits your ego, your pride, your fear, or your frustration, and your mouth moves before your brain has finished processing. You might win the moment, but you lose the relationship. The second mistake is waiting too long. This usually happens when you avoid discomfort. You hope the problem will disappear. You tell yourself it is not worth it. You postpone the conversation until the tension has grown roots. Then when you finally speak, the other person is confused, defensive, or hurt because in their mind the issue should have been addressed earlier. Good timing lies between these two mistakes. It means responding with control, not impulse, and with courage, not avoidance. Different situations require different approaches. A friend in pain may need support more than advice. A team member struggling may need direction rather than criticism. A disagreement may require calm discussion rather than argument. You can think of timing as choosing the right tool for the right situation. If a friend is hurting, the tool is not logic first. The tool is presence. It is a steady voice. It is a sentence like, "I am here, tell me what happened." If a team member is under pressure, the tool is not humiliation. The tool is clarity. It is a calm check-in. It is a sentence like, "What is blocking you right now and what do you need from me?" If you disagree with someone, the tool is not volume. The tool is focus. It is a sentence like, "Let's slow down. I want to understand what you mean and then I will share my view." Timing is not just about the clock, it is about emotional readiness. It is about the mental state of the room. People cannot receive your message if their nervous system is already overloaded. Emotional awareness is essential. When people are tired, overwhelmed, or frustrated, they interpret messages differently. A calm delivery prevents unnecessary conflict. Listening before speaking improves timing and accuracy. Ask questions and absorb what is happening before you answer. When someone is stressed, they are not hearing the same way they hear when calm. Their mind filters your words through threat. A neutral sentence can sound like criticism. A small correction can sound like rejection. A joke can sound like disrespect. That is why you learn to read the moment before you speak. Notice the signs. Is their voice short? Is their body tight? Are they rushing? Are they distracted? Are they already irritated? If yes, your job is to lower the temperature first. The simplest way to do that is to slow your own pace. Speak slightly slower, use fewer words, keep your tone calm, ask a clarifying question. Give them a sense of stability. Listening before speaking is not passive. It is strategy. It prevents you from replying to the wrong problem. Many conflicts happen because people respond to the surface issue and miss the real one underneath. A person complains about a detail, but what they are really expressing is fear, shame, exhaustion, or feeling ignored. You cannot time your words well if you do not understand what is actually happening. Know your audience. The way you speak to a close friend differs from how you speak to a boss or client. A casual remark can be misunderstood in the wrong context. Adjust language to fit who you are speaking to. This is not about being fake, it is about being appropriate. With close friends, you can be loose, warm, and informal because the relationship can absorb it. In professional settings, the relationship often cannot. A casual comment that feels harmless with a friend can feel disrespectful with a client. A joke that feels normal in private can sound sharp in an email. A direct sentence that feels efficient in business can feel cold in a personal relationship. A skilled communicator changes format without changing integrity. The message stays honest, the delivery adapts. Sometimes silence is stronger than words. Not every moment requires immediate response. Giving space can be the best communication. Waiting for emotions to settle can turn a conflict into a productive conversation. Silence can be a deliberate move. It can say, I am not going to react. It can say, I care enough to respond well. It can say, I am thinking. Many people fear silence because they think silence equals weakness, but controlled silence is strength. It prevents you from saying the first thing that comes to mind, which is often the worst thing. Silence also gives the other person space to finish their thought. Some people keep talking because they do not feel heard yet. If you interrupt, you push them deeper into intensity. If you let silence exist, they often calm down on their own. Be mindful of reception. Even a well-meaning comment can hurt if delivered at the wrong moment. Encouragement may not land when someone is upset. Feedback too soon can feel like criticism. This is where timing becomes subtle. Encouragement is powerful, but only when the person is ready to hear it. If someone is in the middle of pain, look on the bright side can feel like dismissal. If someone is angry, you are overreacting can feel like disrespect. If someone is embarrassed, it is not a big deal can make them feel misunderstood. Sometimes the first step is not encouragement, it is acknowledgement. A sentence like, that makes sense, can do more than 10 motivational sentences. A sentence like, I can see this matters to you, can calm someone faster than advice. Important conversations require patience. Do not overwhelm someone by saying everything at once. Break it into smaller points. Give room for processing and response. A common mistake is dumping everything in one burst. People do this because they are nervous or because they have rehearsed the conversation in their head and want to get it over with. But the other person has not rehearsed it. They are hearing it for the first time. So you pace it. You deliver one point, you pause, you check understanding, you let them respond, then you continue. This is how you keep the conversation human instead of turning it into a lecture. Say the right thing with honesty and respect. Avoiding difficult conversations can create bigger problems. Clarity, kindness, and calm honesty create better outcomes. A well-timed compliment can change someone's day. A sincere apology can heal. A clear explanation can reduce confusion. Timing makes compliments more powerful too. A compliment given privately can feel more sincere than a compliment performed in public. A compliment given right after someone tried hard can reinforce growth. A compliment given too late can feel like an afterthought. Apologies are the same. A quick apology can prevent damage, but a rushed apology can sound fake. A delayed apology can sound like you did not care. The right apology comes when you have the humility to own what happened and the clarity to name it. A clear explanation can also save relationships. Many conflicts are fueled by silence. People make up stories when they do not have information. If you explain early, calmly, and clearly, you prevent unnecessary tension. Develop self-awareness. Notice patterns in how you respond and the effect your words have. Reflect on what worked and what did not, then adjust. Notice nonverbal cues too. If someone is closed off or distracted, it may not be the right time for a serious topic. Practice patience daily. It builds a reputation for speaking with purpose. Self-awareness is your timing coach. Review your own patterns. Do you reply too fast when you feel criticized? Do you go silent when you feel pressure? Do you avoid a conversation until you cannot avoid it anymore? Do you become overly blunt when you are tired? Do you send messages late at night when your patience is low? These patterns are not personality, they are habits, and habits can be changed. A practical discipline is to build a pause rule. Before you respond in a high emotion moment, pause long enough to take one breath. Then decide what outcome you want. Do you want clarity? Do you want peace? Do you want understanding? Do you want a solution? Then speak for that outcome. If you speak for the outcome, you stop speaking for your ego. And when you stop speaking for your ego, your timing improves. Because the right thing at the right time is not magic. It is awareness, restraint, and intent. Chapter 5, Your Body Talks Too. People focus on words and forget that the body is communicating at the same time. Posture, expression, gestures, eye contact, and tone shape how others perceive you. Your body is speaking before you even open your mouth. It speaks while you talk. It speaks after you stop. And in many situations, people believe your body more than your words. That is not because people are cynical. It is because humans are wired to read signals. Long before language, we survived by reading posture, facial tension, eye direction, and movement. Those instincts are still running in the background of every conversation you have. So if you want to communicate well, you cannot treat your body language like background noise. It is part of your message. It can reinforce your words or quietly sabotage them. Confidence looks like straight posture, relaxed shoulders, and steady eye contact. Uncertainty often shows as fidgeting, looking down, or crossed arms. People respond not only to what you say, but to how you carry yourself. Confidence is not a performance. It is an alignment. It is your body signaling, I belong here. You can feel nervous and still look steady. That is a skill. Many people assume they must first feel confident before they can act confident. The truth is often the reverse. You act steady and your nervous system starts to follow. Posture is one of the fastest levers you have. When you collapse inward, your breath shortens, your voice tightens, your mind speeds up. When you open up, your breathing deepens, your voice steadies, and your thoughts organize themselves more easily. A straight posture does not mean stiff. It means grounded, relaxed shoulders, head level, feet stable. You are not shrinking, you are not attacking, you are present. Facial expressions reveal emotion. A genuine smile makes people comfortable. A tense jaw or furrowed brow signals impatience. If your words say one thing but your face says another, people believe what they see. Your face is the loudest part of your body language. It is also the part you least notice in yourself. You might think you are neutral, but your eyebrows are telling a different story. You might think you are listening, but your jaw is clenched and your eyes are distant. You might say, no worries, but your face looks irritated. The other person feels the mismatch instantly. That mismatch is what creates distrust, not because people think you are evil, but because they think you are not being fully honest. When words and face disagree, people assume something is hidden. This is why calm communication is not only about the words you choose. It is also about relaxing your expression, especially under pressure. A relaxed face makes your words easier to receive. Gestures add meaning when they are controlled and purposeful. Restless hands and excessive fidgeting distract. Hands are like punctuation. They can underline a point, soften a message, or show enthusiasm. But when they move without purpose, they broadcast nervousness. Fidgeting tells a story. It says, I am uncomfortable, even if your words say, I am fine. It pulls attention away from your message and onto your anxiety. The goal is not to freeze, the goal is control. Keep your hands calm when you are making serious points. Use small, deliberate gestures when you want to emphasize. If you do not know what to do with your hands, place them lightly together or rest them naturally. Your body does not need to entertain, it needs to support your message. Eye contact signals attention and sincerity. Avoiding eye contact can create distrust, but staring too intensely can feel aggressive. Balance builds trust. Eye contact is not about dominating someone, it is about showing presence. It says, you have my attention. Avoiding eye contact can look like insecurity or like you are hiding something even when you are not. On the other extreme, staring can feel like pressure. The balance is natural. Look at the person while they speak. Look away briefly when you think. Return when you speak. That rhythm feels human. If eye contact feels difficult, start small. Practice with short moments. Build comfort. The point is not to force intensity. The point is to signal sincerity. Personal space matters too. Too close feels intrusive. Too distant feels cold. Adjust distance to context. Personal space is another silent language. People do not always talk about it, but they feel it immediately. Standing too close can trigger tension. The other person may step back, cross their arms, or shut down. Standing too far away can signal disinterest. Distance changes by context. A busy workplace, a friendly gathering, a private conversation, a customer interaction, each one has its own normal. A skilled communicator pays attention and adjusts without making it awkward. Tone of voice carries as much weight as words. The same sentence can feel reassuring or harsh depending on delivery. Watch speed, volume, and emphasis. Too fast can signal nervousness. Too slow can lose attention. Find a natural rhythm. Tone is emotional meaning. Words are information. Tone tells the listener how to interpret that information. You can say, "Can we talk?" in a warm tone and it feels safe. You can say the same words in a sharp tone and it feels like trouble. People also hear confidence through rhythm. A steady pace sounds composed, a rushed pace sounds anxious, a choppy pace sounds uncertain. A natural rhythm comes from breathing. If your breathing is shallow, your tone tightens. If your breathing is calm, your tone smooths out. One of the simplest upgrades you can make is to slow down just a little and add small pauses. This gives your voice weight, it gives your words room, it makes you sound like you mean what you say. People notice nonverbal mismatches. Someone saying, "I am fine," while visibly tense does not sound believable. Alignment between words and body language creates credibility. Credibility is alignment. When your posture, face, voice, and words all tell the same story, people relax, they trust you, they stop scanning for hidden meaning. When you are aligned, you do not need to prove yourself. You feel calm because you are not fighting yourself. This is also where many relationships break down. Someone says they are listening, but they keep checking their phone. Someone says they care, but their tone is cold. Someone says they are not angry, but their body is tight and sharp. People stop believing words when the body contradicts them too often. Also observe other people's signals. If they lean in and maintain eye contact, they are engaged. If they look away and check their phone, they may not be present. Adjust your approach when you notice these cues. Small improvements in posture, expression, and tone can create major improvements in trust and connection. Reading others is not manipulation, it is awareness, it is empathy, it is paying attention to what is real in the moment. If someone leans back, crosses arms, and gives short answers, they may feel guarded. If someone nods, leans in, and asks questions, they are open. If someone keeps glancing away, they may be distracted or overwhelmed. When you notice these cues, you adjust your approach. You might slow down, you might ask, "Is now a good time?" You might shorten your message, you might ask a clarifying question, you might shift from advice to listening. This is how you communicate like a disciplined person. You do not just talk, you observe, you calibrate, and you respond with intention. Because your body talks too. And once you learn to listen to it, you stop sending mixed messages. You become clearer without adding extra words. You become calmer without pretending. You become someone people trust, not because you are perfect, but because you are aligned. Chapter 6: Stop feeling nervous when talking to people. Nervousness is normal. Many people feel anxious before important conversations, especially if they are shy or introverted. But most people do not notice your nerves as much as you think. The goal is not to eliminate anxiety. The goal is to manage it so it does not control you. Nervousness is not proof that you are weak. Nervousness is proof that you care about the outcome and that your mind is treating the moment as important. The mistake is not feeling nervous. The mistake is believing the nervousness is a command. The nervousness is a signal, not a sentence. You can feel it and still speak clearly, still hold eye contact, still move through the conversation with control. Start by acknowledging it. Admitting to yourself that you feel anxious reduces pressure. Many people fight the feeling, and that fight doubles the tension. They panic about panicking. They get nervous about being nervous. They start monitoring themselves from the outside, judging every word, every pause, every facial expression. That self-monitoring is what makes you freeze. A calmer approach is to name it quietly and move forward anyway. You can tell yourself, "I feel nervous right now and I can still handle this." That simple sentence returns you to reality. It keeps you from turning anxiety into a story about your identity. Use breathing. Shallow breathing increases tension. Deep, slow breaths calm your nervous system, slow your heart rate, and refocus your mind. Your breath is the steering wheel of your state. When you breathe high and fast, your body prepares for danger. Your voice tightens, your words speed up, and your mind starts racing ahead. When you breathe low and slow, your body receives a different message. It receives safety, it receives time, it receives control. A simple practice is to inhale through your nose, let the breath drop into your belly, then exhale longer than you inhaled. Do that a few times before you speak, and you will feel your shoulders drop, your jaw soften, and your voice become steadier. You do not need to make it dramatic. You just need to give your nervous system a new instruction. Prepare. Confidence grows when you know your message. You do not need to memorize, you need key points. When you are prepared, you focus on delivering clearly instead of worrying about what to say next. Keep things simple and reduce self-pressure. Preparation is not about sounding perfect. Preparation is about reducing uncertainty. The mind hates uncertainty because uncertainty feels like danger. If you walk into a conversation with no plan, your brain starts scanning for threats and mistakes. If you walk in with 2 or 3 clear points, your mind relaxes because it has a path. A helpful structure is to decide your headline, your reason, and your request. What is the main point? Why does it matter? What do you want to happen next? With those 3 anchors, you can speak naturally without memorizing anything. Remember the spotlight effect. You think people are focused on you, but most people are focused on themselves. This realization reduces fear of judgment. Most people are not analyzing your pauses. They are not counting how many times you say. They are thinking about what they will say next, how they look, what they need to do later, and how the conversation affects them. Your anxiety tells you everyone can see I am nervous, but reality is quieter. Even if someone notices a hint of nerves, it usually does not matter. In many cases, it makes you more relatable because it shows you are human. Shift attention outward, focus on the person you are speaking with and how you can connect or help. That shift makes you more relaxed and natural. Anxiety grows when you make the conversation about you. You start asking, how am I doing? Do I sound stupid? Am I being judged? The moment you shift focus to the other person, the pressure drops. You start asking better questions. You start listening more. You become present. Presence is the cure for performance. A practical way to do this is to decide before you speak that your goal is to be useful, not impressive. Useful is calm, useful is simple, useful is honest. Practice every conversation is training, from ordering coffee to small talk at work to deeper talks with friends. You can also practice in a mirror or record yourself to get comfortable with your voice and presence. Confidence is built through repetition, not through wishing. The nervous system learns by experience. If you avoid conversations, you teach your brain that conversations are dangerous. If you walk into them, breathe, speak, and survive, you teach your brain that it is safe. Start small. Ask a stranger for directions. Make one extra sentence of small talk. Speak up once in a meeting. Do not wait until you feel ready. Readiness often comes after action, not before it. Recording yourself can also help because it breaks the illusion of how you think you sound. Many people hate their voice at first, but that is normal. Over time, you get used to it and the discomfort fades. Do not chase perfection. People respect authenticity. It is okay to stumble over words. It makes you relatable. If you can laugh lightly at a small mistake, you reduce tension and build connection. Perfection is a trap because it forces you to monitor every detail, and monitoring kills flow. A strong communicator is not someone who never stumbles. A strong communicator is someone who stays calm when they stumble. If you lose a word, you pause. If you misspeak, you correct it lightly. If you forget something, you return to your main point. Most people will not judge you for being human. They judge you when you act like a mistake is a disaster. Nervousness fades with experience. Do not avoid situations where you need to speak. Embrace them, breathe, focus on the person in front of you, and trust your capability. Speaking can become rewarding and fulfilling when you approach it with patience, practice, and self-compassion. Over time, you will notice a shift. The same situations that used to feel threatening will feel normal. Your body will still get a little energy before important moments, but it will no longer feel like panic. It will feel like readiness. The goal is not to become fearless. The goal is to become steady. You learn to carry nerves like background noise while you stay focused on the message. You stop asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? And you start asking, how do I speak well while I feel it? That is the moment you grow. That is the moment you build real confidence. Chapter 7 tells stories that people remember. Storytelling is one of the most powerful tools in communication. Stories captivate, carry meaning, and create lasting impressions. People connect with stories in ways they do not connect with facts alone. Stories make ideas come alive, evoke emotion, and build connection. A fact can inform someone, but a story can move them. A fact can be forgotten by tomorrow, but a story can stay with someone for years. That is why the best communicators are not always the most intelligent in the room. They are often the ones who can turn an idea into an experience. They can take something abstract and make it feel real, personal, and memorable. A good story engages from the start and keeps curiosity alive. The best stories create an emotional experience, whether it is laughter, excitement, or sadness. Emotion is what people remember. Curiosity is the first door you open. If you open it early, people step inside. If you do not, they stay outside and their attention drifts. You do not need drama to create curiosity. You need a clear moment that makes the listener wonder what happens next. You can start with a decision, a problem, a surprising observation, or a small detail that feels human. When you pull someone into the moment, you give them a reason to stay. A great story has a point. What do you want the listener to understand? Without a clear takeaway, details become noise. Keep focus. Too many details confuse and disengage. The point is not a moral you announce at the end like a lecture. The point is the reason you are telling it at all. It is the meaning behind the moment. If you do not know the point, you will drift. You will add details because you are not sure what matters. A disciplined storyteller knows what to keep and what to cut, not because they are trying to be short, but because they are trying to be clear. You decide what the listener should feel, understand, or remember, and you build the story around that. Make stories relatable. People connect with experiences and emotions they recognize. Relatability creates shared understanding and breaks down barriers. This is where storytelling becomes powerful in everyday life. You do not need to be a performer, you need to be human. A story becomes relatable when it touches something universal, like fear of failing, pride in improvement, regret about a choice, or relief after a hard moment. People might not share your exact experience, but they recognize the feeling. When they recognize the feeling, they trust you more because your words are not floating in theory. They are grounded in real life. Structure: a beginning sets the stage and hooks attention. A middle builds tension and carries the lesson. An ending creates resolution and gives something to reflect on. Structure is what makes a story easy to follow without visual context, especially in voiceover. The beginning answers, where are we and what is happening? The middle answers, what changed, what went wrong, what was difficult, what did you do? The ending answers, what happened, what did you learn, what should the listener take from this? Without structure, stories feel like rambling memories. With structure, they feel like journeys. Even short stories need structure because structure is what keeps the listener oriented. Use vivid details, help the listener see, feel, and hear the moment. Sensory details make stories real. You do not need many details, but you need the right ones. A single strong detail can create a whole scene. The sound of a quiet room before you speak. The weight of a phone in your hand when you hesitate to call someone. The feeling of your heart beating too fast before you walk into a meeting. These details do not exist to decorate the story. They exist to place the listener inside the moment. When the listener can see it and feel it, they stay engaged because now it is not information. Now it is experience. Manage tone and pacing. If you rush, you lose emotional impact. If you drag, you lose attention. Learn to pause for effect, speed up for energy, and slow down for meaning. Pacing is the difference between a story that feels alive and a story that feels flat. When something is intense, slow down slightly so the listener can feel the weight of it. When something is exciting, let your rhythm tighten a bit so the listener feels movement. Pauses are not mistakes, pauses are control. A pause before a key line builds anticipation. A pause after a key line lets it land. If you want people to remember your story, you cannot rush through the parts that carry the meaning. Use humor carefully. A well-placed light moment can build connection, but overdoing it or using it in the wrong setting distracts from the point. Humor is a tool, not a personality. It can soften tension, create warmth, and make difficult truths easier to accept. But humor can also become a shield. Some people joke because they are afraid to be sincere. If you want your stories to matter, you have to be willing to let them be serious when the moment calls for seriousness. Use humor as seasoning, not as the whole meal. Know your audience. A story for friends is not always right for a business setting. Consider background, interests, and emotions. The same story can be told in different ways depending on who is listening. With friends, you can be casual and detailed. In a professional environment, you keep it tighter and more focused on the lesson. If you are speaking to someone in pain, you do not tell a story that shifts attention away from them. If you're speaking to a team, you tell stories that build clarity, courage, and direction. A skilled storyteller does not only tell a good story, they tell the right story for that moment. Be authentic. People sense exaggeration. Vulnerability and truth build connection. Not every story needs to be dramatic. Even ordinary moments can be meaningful when told well. The most memorable stories are often simple. They are not impressive, they are honest. A small moment where you almost gave up but you chose to continue. A conversation where you wanted to defend yourself but you stayed calm. A mistake that taught you humility. Authenticity does not mean dumping every detail of your life on people. It means telling the truth of the moment without performing. When you do that, the listener feels it. Storytelling improves with practice. The more you tell stories, the more you find your voice and style. Do not be discouraged by early attempts. Keep refining. A practical way to improve is to review what people respond to. Notice when they lean in. Notice when they smile. Notice when they go quiet. Those are signals that your story is landing. Another practice is to tell the same story more than once, each time slightly cleaner, with fewer unnecessary details and a clearer point. You will feel yourself getting sharper, calmer, and more confident. Stories are a bridge that connects people, and when you learn to build that bridge well, you do more than entertain. You influence how people think, how they feel, and what they remember. Chapter 8: Handle Tough Conversations Without Stress. Difficult conversations are part of life. You will face moments with friends, family, or colleagues where topics feel uncomfortable or sensitive. Anxiety is common, but handling these moments well strengthens relationships and resolves conflict. Most people avoid these conversations until they become unavoidable, and then they walk into them with built-up tension, old assumptions, and a nervous system already on edge. That is why the conversation feels hard. It is not only the topic. It is the pressure you carried into the room. The goal is not to become someone who never feels tension. The goal is to become someone who can walk into tension and still communicate with control, clarity, and respect. Start by staying calm. Preparation helps. Know what you want to communicate and be clear about your intent. Calm does not mean emotionless. Calm means you are not letting emotion drive the steering wheel. Preparation is how you reduce the chaos. Before you speak, decide what you want the outcome to be. Do you want a solution? Do you want understanding? Do you want to set a boundary? Do you want to repair trust? The clearer you are about your intent, the less likely you are to drift into attacking, defending, or performing. A useful discipline is to write one sentence for yourself before the conversation. My goal is to be clear and respectful, and to leave this conversation with a plan. That sentence anchors you when the conversation starts to heat up. Approach with an open mind. Listen actively. When emotions rise, your job is to keep focus on the message and the goal, not on winning. Most tough conversations fail because people turn them into a courtroom. They gather evidence, they build arguments, they interrupt, they try to prove they are right, but relationships are not won in court. Relationships are built through understanding and repair. You can be right and still lose connection. You can be logically correct and still damage trust if your tone is harsh and your listening is weak. An open mind does not mean you accept everything. It means you stay curious long enough to understand what the other person is actually saying, including what they are not saying directly. Use empathy. You do not have to agree with someone to acknowledge their experience. Empathy helps people feel heard, which reduces stress and opens space for resolution. Empathy is not surrender, it is acknowledgement. It sounds like, I understand why you feel that way, or I can see how that would be frustrating, or that makes sense from your perspective. Those sentences are not admissions of guilt, they are signals of respect. When people feel respected, they soften. When they soften, problem solving becomes possible. Without empathy, people stay armored. And when two armored people talk, the conversation becomes a fight even if neither one wanted a fight. Ask clarifying questions, especially when emotions are high and misunderstandings are likely. Clarifying questions prevent assumptions and keep the conversation productive. Tough conversations are full of mental shortcuts. People assume intent, they assume meaning, they assume disrespect. A clarifying question is how you pull the conversation back into reality. You can ask, when you say that, what do you mean exactly? You can ask, can you give me an example? You can ask, what would a good outcome look like for you? These questions slow the conversation down and remove guessing. They also show that you are trying to understand, not trying to attack. Take your time. Hasty responses rarely lead to good outcomes. A brief pause to gather thoughts can prevent escalation and improve clarity. Silence is not weakness here. Silence is discipline. If you feel your emotions rising, do not race them. Pause, breathe, choose your next sentence on purpose. A calm pause can completely change the direction of a conversation. It gives you time to respond instead of react. It also signals maturity. People trust someone who can hold themselves steady when things are uncomfortable. Avoid defensive or aggressive reactions. Use I statements instead of you statements. Say I feel concerned when instead of you always. This keeps the conversation from becoming accusatory. You statements often trigger the other person's defenses instantly. You never listen. You always do this. You are being selfish. Even if you feel those sentences are true, they usually do not help. They create a battle over labels. I statements keep the focus on your experience and the impact. I felt dismissed when that happened. I am concerned about how this is affecting us. I need clearer communication going forward. This form is honest, but it does not corner the other person. It invites response rather than retaliation. If tension is too high, suggest a short break. A pause allows everyone to cool down and return with clearer perspective. This is not avoidance, it is a reset so the conversation can continue effectively. The key is how you frame it. You do not storm out, you do not threaten, you say it calmly and clearly. I want to keep this productive. I am getting worked up. Can we take 10 minutes and come back? That is leadership in communication. It shows you care about the outcome more than the emotional release. It prevents damage that would take longer to repair than the original issue. Stressful situations do not have to create poor communication. In fact, how you communicate under pressure reveals your ability to handle difficulty with grace. With practice, tough conversations become easier and more natural. You start to recognize patterns sooner. You notice when your tone is rising. You notice when the other person is shutting down. You learn to slow the pace, clarify the point, and protect the relationship while still protecting the truth. Over time, you stop seeing tough conversations as disasters waiting to happen. You start seeing them as maintenance, as a way to clear the air before resentment grows, as a way to strengthen trust through honesty. The real win is not avoiding stress forever. The real win is learning to stay steady inside it, so your words remain clean, your intent remains clear, and the conversation moves toward resolution instead of damage. Chapter 9 builds strong connections that last. Strong connections are built through attention, interest, and consistency. People want to feel valued, seen, and understood. This requires time and energy, not tricks. In a world where communication is fast, short, and constant, real connection has become rare, and that is exactly why it stands out. Many people have plenty of contacts, plenty of messages, and plenty of surface-level interaction, yet they still feel unseen. Strong connection is different. It is not a vibe. It is not chemistry. It is not a lucky accident. It is a pattern of choices that tells someone again and again, "You matter to me and I am here." A strong connection also has weight. It holds during stress. It holds during disagreement. It holds when life gets busy. It does not disappear the moment you stop being useful to each other. That kind of bond is not built through clever lines or social tactics. It is built through reliability, emotional maturity, and honest attention over time. Show genuine interest, ask about people's experiences, and listen without rushing. Be present. Interest is one of the clearest signals of respect, and people can feel it instantly. Real interest does not treat someone's story like a waiting room for your turn to talk. It stays with them, it asks follow-up questions, it notices details. It remembers what matters to the person, even when it is not important to you. The easiest way to show genuine interest is to slow down. Most people listen at the speed of reply. They cut people off, finish sentences, or jump straight to advice. Presence is different. Presence listens at the speed of understanding. Presence lets the other person finish. Presence gives a short pause before responding, not as a performance, but because you are actually absorbing what they said. Small behaviors create big outcomes here. Putting your phone away, making eye contact, nodding, asking what was that like for you, asking what happened next, asking how are you really doing. Those questions are simple, but they invite depth. Depth is where connection lives. And interest is not only shown in serious moments, it is shown in ordinary moments too, remembering someone's child's name, asking how their new job is going, following up on a health issue they mentioned last week. When you remember, you signal that they are not just background noise in your life. You signal that they are a person you actually hold in mind. Be authentic. People sense performance. They connect with realness. Authentic does not mean oversharing or turning every conversation into a confession. Authentic means alignment. Your words match your energy. Your tone matches your intent. You do not pretend to be someone you are not. You do not act interested while secretly distracted. You do not act confident while quietly fishing for validation. People are sensitive to performance because performance is unstable. It feels like something could flip at any moment. Authenticity feels stable, it feels honest, it feels safe. Being authentic also means having the courage to be simple. You can say, I do not know without feeling small. You can say, I was wrong without making excuses. You can say, I need time to think without disappearing. You can say, that hurt me without attacking. This is where many connections fail. People hide their real reactions until resentment builds, then they explode, then they withdraw. Realness prevents that. Realness keeps the relationship clean. It reduces guessing. It reduces tension. It makes repair possible because both people know what is actually happening. Communicate with empathy. Validate feelings before solutions. Many people try to build connection by being helpful, but they skip the step that makes help land. People usually want understanding before they want answers. If someone shares something difficult and you respond with solutions immediately, they may feel dismissed even if you meant well. They might think, you did not even hear me, you just wanted to fix me. Empathy is not agreement. Empathy is acknowledgement. It says, I see your experience. It says, that makes sense. It says, I can understand why that would feel heavy. This is not soft, this is skilled. Empathy calms the nervous system. When people feel understood, their defenses lower. Their thinking becomes clearer, their trust grows, then solutions can actually enter the room. Empathy also includes timing. Sometimes the best moment to help is later, after the person has felt heard. Sometimes the most powerful sentence is not advice, it is support. I am here. You are not alone. Talk to me. Those sentences build a bond that advice cannot replace. Invest in relationships. Strong bonds enrich personal life and support professional success. When you build true connections, you create a network of trust and support that lasts. Investment is consistency. It is checking in without needing anything. It is doing what you said you would do. It is showing up on time. It is following through. Consistency is the silent builder of trust. People trust people who are predictable in the best way, predictable in kindness, predictable in honesty, predictable in respect, not perfect but stable. Investment also means repair. Every real relationship has friction. People misunderstand each other, people get tired, people get stressed, people disappoint each other. Strong connections last because the people involved know how to repair damage. They apologize cleanly. They do not defend forever. They can say, I see how that came across and I am sorry. They can say, I want us to be good. They can say, let's talk about it. A relationship without repair becomes fragile. It becomes a place where people avoid truth to avoid conflict. That is not connection, that is fear. Real connection can handle honesty because it has respect underneath it. Investment also includes boundaries. This matters because many people confuse connection with constant access, but healthy bonds are not built by saying yes to everything. They are built by being honest about what you can give and then giving it reliably. Boundaries protect relationships from resentment. Resentment kills warmth. When you set boundaries calmly, you protect the bond and your own energy. Over time, your ability to build strong connections becomes one of the most valuable skills you can develop. It affects love, friendship, family, and business. It affects your mental health. It affects your confidence. It affects your opportunities because opportunities often move through people. not through luck but through trust. If you want a final practical lens, think of connection as a bank account. Every moment of presence is a deposit. Every moment of honesty with respect is a deposit. Every follow-through is a deposit. Every careless dismissal is a withdrawal. Every broken promise is a withdrawal. Strong relationships last because the balance stays positive. Build that balance on purpose. Be present, be real, be empathetic, be consistent. That is how connections last. Chapter 10. Use communication to succeed in life. Success is not only hard work, it is communication. When you communicate well, doors open, opportunities arise, relationships grow, and goals become more achievable. You can be the most capable person in the room and still be overlooked if you cannot express what you think, what you need, and what you can do. And you can also watch less capable people move faster simply because they can communicate with clarity and confidence. That reality can feel unfair, but it is also empowering because communication is trainable. It is not luck. It is not charisma reserved for a few people. It is a skill, and skills respond to practice. It is not only what you say, it is how you say it. Tone, intention, and energy change everything. The same words can build trust or create resistance depending on delivery. The same message can feel supportive or insulting depending on tone, and the same request can be accepted or rejected depending on how you frame it. People do not respond only to information, they respond to signals. They respond to emotional energy, to certainty, to respect, and to whether you seem grounded or unstable. If your words are clean but your tone is tense, people feel pressure. If your words are correct but your intention feels selfish, people resist. If your words are honest and your energy is calm, people listen. Communication is conveying a message so others understand and resonate with it. Clear communication creates clarity. Clarity leads to action. When people understand your plans and goals, they can support and collaborate. When your message is confusing, you create misunderstandings and missed opportunities. In real life, most bad outcomes are not caused by a lack of effort. They are caused by confusion. Confusion about expectations. Confusion about roles. Confusion about deadlines. Confusion about what matters most. Confusion about what someone meant. Confusion about what someone assumed. Clarity removes friction. It saves time. It prevents rework. It prevents conflict. It turns good intentions into coordinated action. If you lead a team, clarity prevents chaos. If you work with customers, clarity prevents complaints. If you manage relationships, clarity prevents silent resentment. Even in your personal life, clarity changes everything. People cannot support you if they do not understand you. They cannot meet needs you never express. They cannot respect boundaries you never set. Refine verbal and nonverbal communication and watch how it transforms work and relationships. Communication is a tool you can train, not a talent you either have or do not have. Training communication means training a few key disciplines. It means learning to state your point early instead of burying it. It means learning to ask better questions instead of making assumptions. It means learning to listen without preparing your counterargument. It means learning to speak with calm confidence instead of nervous speed. It means learning to match your words, tone, and body language so you do not send mixed signals. It also means learning to communicate up and down, up to people with authority without shrinking, down to people you lead without disrespect, sideways to peers without ego, and outward to strangers without fear. The people who succeed long-term learn how to communicate across all of these directions. There is also a deeper layer. Communication is not only what you do with other people, it is also what you do with yourself. The way you talk to yourself shapes how you show up in the world. If your internal language is constantly critical, you will hesitate, self-censor, and second-guess. If your internal language is clear and disciplined, you will speak with more stability. Success is built from both directions. You communicate outward to build relationships and opportunities, and you communicate inward to build identity and confidence. The sentences you repeat internally become the posture you bring into a room. If your inner voice says, "Do not mess this up," you will sound tight. If your inner voice says, "Stay calm and speak clearly," you will sound grounded. If you want a practical picture, imagine two people with equal talent. One person works hard but stays vague. They do not ask for clarity, they do not set expectations, they do not explain their value, they avoid uncomfortable conversations, they let misunderstandings accumulate. Over time, they feel stuck. The other person works hard and communicates cleanly. They keep people aligned, they speak up early, they handle tension directly but respectfully. They clarify before problems grow. They ask for what they need. They express what they can offer. They build trust. Over time, doors open for them not because the world is fair, but because the world rewards clarity and reliability. This is also why communication affects money, time, and stress. Clear communication saves money because it prevents mistakes. It saves time because it reduces back and forth. It lowers stress because you do not have to guess what people want from you and they do not have to guess what you want from them. Even simple habits create big returns, confirming expectations in one sentence, summarizing decisions at the end of a conversation, asking, "What does success look like here?" Stating deadlines clearly, saying, "Let's agree on the next step." These are small moves, but they compound. Communication is also how you negotiate, even when you are not negotiating. Every day you negotiate attention, respect, boundaries, and priorities. When you can express a clear request without apology, you increase your chances of getting what you need. When you can say no calmly, you protect your time and energy. When you can give feedback without attacking, you improve results without damaging relationships. When you can apologize cleanly, you repair trust faster. These are not soft skills. These are survival skills in a complex world. And there is one more thing. People often think success is about being right. But in real life, success is often about being understood. The best idea in the world is useless if you cannot communicate it. The best plan fails if you cannot align people around it. The best intention collapses if you cannot express it in a way the other person can receive. When you communicate well, you do not just speak, you create shared reality. You bring people onto the same page, you create momentum. So treat communication like a success skill, not like an extra. Train it the way you would train any discipline. Practice clarity, practice calm tone, practice directness with respect, practice listening, practice timing, practice repair. Every time you do, you reduce friction, increase trust, and expand your influence. When you communicate well, you do not just talk, you move people, you align people, you build momentum. And momentum is one of the most powerful forces in success. Chapter 11. Ask better questions to get better answers. Questions are one of the most powerful tools in communication, and they are often overlooked. The right questions create deeper understanding, clearer direction, and better decisions. Questions build connection, foster engagement, and move conversations forward. The quality of your questions shapes the quality of your answers, and in many ways, the quality of your life. If you want a simple truth that explains why some people grow fast and others stay stuck, it is this. The people who grow ask better questions, they ask better questions of other people, and they ask better questions of themselves. They do not just consume information, they interrogate it. They do not just accept situations, they explore them. They do not just react, they inquire. A good question is not small talk. A good question is leadership. It directs attention. It reveals hidden assumptions. It opens doors that statements keep closed. Statements are often final. Questions are alive. Statements can sound like control. Questions sound like curiosity. And curiosity is one of the most effective ways to create trust because it tells the other person, "I am here to understand, not to dominate." Most communication problems are not word problems. They are assumption problems. People assume what the other person meant. They assume why something happened. They assume what the future will look like. They assume what someone needs. Then they act on those assumptions, and the result is confusion, conflict, and wasted effort. A question is how you slow down the assumption machine. A question is how you replace guessing with clarity. Think about how often conflict begins with a sentence that could have been a question. You do not care. That could have been, do you still care about this? You are ignoring me. That could have been, are you overwhelmed right now? This will never work. That could have been, what would make this work? Most people do not ask, they declare, and declarations turn into walls, questions turn into doors. Good questions require presence. When you ask, give the other person time and space to respond fully. Listen so you can ask stronger follow-ups based on what they share. Presence means you are not asking a question as a trick. You are not asking while already preparing your next point. You are not asking to steer someone into a corner. You are asking because you actually want the truth. A question asked without presence is just a performance. People feel that instantly. They give short answers, they stay guarded, they do not open up. But when you ask with real presence, something changes. The person feels safe enough to think. They feel safe enough to be honest. And sometimes they hear their own thoughts more clearly because your question gave them a frame. Presence also means you allow silence. Many people ask a question and then panic when the other person takes a moment to respond, so they start filling the space. They add more words, they rephrase, they explain what they meant, they answer their own question, and in doing so, they steal the moment. Learn to ask, then wait, let the question do its work. Silence is not awkward when it has purpose. Silence after a good question is often where the real answer forms. Curiosity is a strength. Some people say curiosity is dangerous, but curiosity drives innovation, problem solving, and meaningful dialogue. Curious questions sound like, what made you choose that path? Or how did you come to that conclusion? These questions show genuine interest and invite depth. Curiosity is not nosiness. Curiosity is respect for reality. It is the willingness to admit you do not know everything yet. Some people fear curiosity because curiosity requires humility. It requires you to admit there might be more to the story than your first impression. It requires you to accept that you could be wrong. But that is exactly why curiosity is powerful. It keeps you flexible. It keeps you learning. It keeps you from becoming the kind of person who always talks but rarely understands. A curious person asks questions that open people up instead of shutting them down. A curious person does not only ask, what happened? They ask, what mattered to you about that? They ask, what were you hoping for? They ask, what was the hardest part? Those questions go deeper than the surface. They touch meaning, they touch emotion, they touch motivation, and motivation is where truth lives. Timing matters. A well-timed question can change a conversation. If you ask too early or too late, it may not land. Follow the flow and look for moments where a thoughtful question can bring clarity or reflection. Timing is not only when you ask, timing is also how you ask. Some questions should be gentle, some should be direct, some should be asked privately rather than publicly. Some should be asked after someone has calmed down, not while they are still in the heat of emotion. A question asked too early can feel invasive. A question asked too late can feel like you are not paying attention. You develop timing by paying attention to the emotional state of the room. Is the other person open right now, or are they guarded? Are they stressed or calm? Are they ready to reflect or still reacting? A skilled communicator can feel when a question would help and when it would harm. They do not force depth at the wrong moment. They do not interrogate, they invite. Now, to make this practical, you need categories. Because ask better questions is advice that sounds nice, but it becomes powerful when you know what kinds of questions to ask. There are at least 5 types of questions that will upgrade your communication immediately. Clarifying questions, calibrating questions, deepening questions, decision questions, and reflection questions. Clarifying questions remove confusion. They turn vague statements into clear meaning. They sound like, when you say that, what do you mean exactly? They sound like, can you give me an example? They sound like, what does that look like in practice? These questions prevent misunderstandings before they start. They also stop you from arguing with a version of the other person that exists only in your head. Calibrating questions align expectations. They sound like, what does success look like for you here? They sound like, what are you expecting from me? They sound like, what matters most in this situation? Calibrating questions are how you avoid disappointment. Many people disappoint each other simply because expectations were never spoken out loud. Deepening questions create connection. They sound like, how did that make you feel? They sound like, what was the hardest part? They sound like, what did you learn from that? These questions tell the other person you are interested in them, not just in the information. Decision questions create movement. They sound like, what is the next step? They sound like, what are we deciding right now? They sound like, what are the options and what do you choose? These questions stop conversations from looping endlessly. Reflection questions build wisdom. They sound like, what would you do differently next time? They sound like, what pattern do you notice? They sound like, what does this situation reveal about what you value? These questions turn experience into growth instead of just memory. There is also a sixth category that most people ignore, and it might be the most important one: boundary questions. Boundary questions protect your time, your energy, and your relationships. They sound like, what are you asking me to take responsibility for? They sound like, is this mine to carry or yours? They sound like, what do you need from me specifically? Boundaries are not built through anger, they are built through clarity. A boundary question is a calm way to get clarity before resentment grows. It turns vague pressure into a clear request, and once you have a clear request, you can respond like a disciplined person. You can say yes, you can say no, you can negotiate, but you are no longer trapped in confusion. Questions also apply inward. Self-reflection improves when you ask better questions of yourself. Instead of why does this always happen to me, ask what can I learn from this situation. The questions you ask yourself shape how you think, feel, and act. Your internal questions create your internal world. If your internal questions are weak, your internal world becomes heavy. A weak question is usually emotional and absolute. Why am I like this? Why can't I ever get it right? Why does nothing work for me? Those questions do not lead to solutions. They lead to self-punishment. They train helplessness. A strong internal question is practical and forward. What is the real problem here? What is within my control? What is one small action I can take next? What am I avoiding? What would a disciplined person do here? What is the lesson? Those questions train agency. They train responsibility without shame. This is where your Ironmind tone lives. Calm, disciplined, reflective, not dramatic, not victim-based, real. If you want to upgrade your life quickly, upgrade your questions in 4 common areas: conflict, growth, relationships, and decision-making. In conflict, ask questions that lower heat and raise clarity. What did you mean by that? What are you worried about? What do you need from me? What would feel fair to you? These questions shift the conversation from accusation to problem solving. In growth, ask questions that turn mistakes into training. What did this teach me? What pattern do I keep repeating? What skill am I missing? What would I do if I had to solve this in 1 week? These questions create momentum. In relationships, ask questions that deepen connection. What is something you need more of lately? What has been on your mind? When do you feel most supported by me? What do you wish I understood better? These questions create closeness without force. In decision-making, ask questions that cut through confusion. What matters most here? What will this choice cost me? What will it give me? What would I choose if I was not afraid? These questions reveal truth. One more skill separates average question askers from powerful ones: follow-up questions. Most people ask one question, get an answer, then move on. A strong communicator listens for the open door in the answer and asks the next question that goes one layer deeper. If someone says work has been stressful, the follow-up is not, oh yeah. The follow-up is, what part has been the most stressful? If they say, I'm not sure what to do, the follow-up is, what options are you considering? If they say, I feel frustrated, the follow-up is, what is the frustration really about? Follow-ups signal that you are not collecting words. You are seeking understanding. That is rare, and rarity creates respect. Also remember this. A question can be asked in a way that feels safe or in a way that feels like an attack. Tone matters, timing matters, intention matters. Why did you do that can sound curious or it can sound accusing. If you want the truth, ask like someone who can handle the truth. Calm voice, open posture, genuine intent. When you ask better questions, you become someone people want to talk to. You become someone who gets clearer answers because people feel safe enough to be honest. You become someone who sees reality faster because you are not trapped in assumption. You become someone who learns faster because you are not trapped in ego. And over time, your questions shape your life. Because your questions shape your attention, and your attention shapes your actions, and your actions shape your outcomes. Chapter 12: How to Give and Receive Feedback Without Damage. Feedback can strengthen performance and relationships when handled correctly. Poor feedback creates defensiveness and resentment. Most people do not fail at feedback because they have bad intentions. They fail because they treat feedback like a weapon, or they treat it like a confession, or they treat it like a judgment of character. They go too vague, too emotional, too personal, or too late. Then they are surprised when the other person shuts down, argues back, or quietly resents them. Handled well, feedback is not conflict, it is maintenance. It is the process of keeping relationships and performance clean, aligned, and improving over time. It is how you prevent small problems from becoming permanent damage. The goal is not to criticize, the goal is to help reality get better. There are two truths you have to accept if you want to master feedback. First, everyone needs feedback, including you. Second, most people are bad at giving it and bad at receiving it. That means this skill instantly sets you apart. If you can give feedback without creating shame and receive feedback without creating a fight, you become a rare kind of person. People trust you. People want to work with you. People feel safe around you because they know issues can be addressed without drama. When you give feedback, be specific, respectful, and solution-oriented. Focus on behavior, not the person. Offer clear suggestions for improvement. Specific means you do not attack with labels. You do not say you are lazy or you are careless or you never listen. Those are character judgments, and character judgments trigger defense. Instead, you name what happened when it happened and what the impact was. You stay on observable behavior. A clean feedback structure looks like this. When X happened, it created Y impact, and what I need going forward is Z. When the report came in after the deadline, it delayed the rest of the work, and going forward I need it by Thursday at noon, even if it is not perfect yet. When you interrupted me in that meeting, I lost my train of thought, and going forward I would like you to let me finish before responding. That is direct, respectful, and actionable. No humiliation, no guessing, no vague frustration. Respectful means your tone matches your intent. If your intent is improvement, your tone should not sound like punishment. People can accept hard truths when they feel respected, but when they feel disrespected, they stop listening and start defending. Respect also means choosing the right setting. Some feedback should be private, not public. Some feedback should be delivered calmly, not in the heat of irritation. Some feedback should be timed when the person can actually receive it. Solution-oriented means you do not dump criticism and walk away. You give a path forward. You ask, what would help you do this better next time? You ask, what can we change so this is easier to execute? You give clarity on expectations, and you offer support where appropriate. Feedback is not just pointing out what went wrong, it is aligning on what right looks like. A common mistake is saving feedback too long. People wait because they do not want discomfort, and then when they finally speak, they unload weeks of frustration. That rarely ends well. The other person feels ambushed. They feel like you were smiling while secretly judging them. Trust drops. The discipline is to handle feedback early while it is small. Early feedback feels like guidance. Late feedback feels like a verdict. Another common mistake is confusing feedback with venting. Venting is emotional release. Feedback is purposeful communication. If you are too charged, pause first, calm yourself, then speak. A helpful rule is this: do not give feedback while your goal is to make them feel it. If your goal is to hurt, you will hurt. If your goal is to improve, you will choose words that improve. Now, receiving feedback is its own discipline, and many people fail here even when the feedback is delivered well. When you receive feedback, listen without becoming defensive. Reflect on what is said and treat it as an opportunity to grow. Feedback handled well becomes a tool for continuous improvement. Defensiveness is usually not about the feedback. It is about identity. People hear feedback as "you are not good enough," so they fight back to protect their self-image. But feedback is not identity. Feedback is information. It is data about how your actions are landing. You can be a good person and still have room to improve. You can be skilled and still miss something. You can have good intentions and still create a negative impact. The disciplined move is to separate yourself from the data. You listen, you breathe, you do not rush to explain, you do not rush to justify, you ask clarifying questions if needed. Can you give me an example? What would you prefer next time? What mattered most about that? Those questions turn feedback into clear action. You do not have to accept every piece of feedback as truth. Some feedback is biased, emotional, or simply wrong, but even then you can still extract value. If someone misunderstood you, that is information. If someone took your tone as harsh, that is information. If someone felt ignored, that is information. You can decide what to adjust without letting it crush your confidence. A powerful response to feedback is simple. "Thank you for telling me. I hear you. I will think about that." Those sentences keep the conversation clean. Then you reflect privately and decide what you will change. Another key skill is receiving feedback without immediate self-punishment. Some people take feedback and collapse into shame. They think, "I am terrible." That is not humility. That is ego turned inward. The healthy response is balanced. "I see this gap. I can improve it." That is growth. Over time, the people who succeed are not the ones who never receive criticism. They are the ones who can hear criticism without falling apart and then adjust quickly. They make improvement normal, not dramatic. That is continuous improvement in real life. Now, feedback is tied directly to a major barrier in communication: fear of rejection or judgment. Many people stay silent because they worry about what others think. Overcoming this fear requires practice, courage, and self-compassion. The more you communicate openly, the easier it becomes. Your voice is valuable. Each conversation is an opportunity to practice and improve. Fear makes people avoid feedback conversations. They keep peace on the surface and they create distance underneath. They think silence is kindness. It is not. Silence is often just comfort for the person avoiding the discomfort. The truth is this: avoided feedback does not disappear. It transforms into resentment, passive aggression, withdrawal, and coldness. People stop saying what they need to say and start showing it in their energy. That is how relationships slowly die. Courageous communication is not harsh communication. Courageous communication is honest communication delivered with respect. It is the willingness to risk awkwardness now to prevent damage later. Self-compassion matters because you will not always deliver feedback perfectly. You will sometimes say the wrong thing. You will sometimes miss the right timing. You will sometimes get defensive when you should have listened. That is part of being human. The goal is not perfection. The goal is improvement. If you want a practical discipline, adopt a simple standard for yourself. I will be clear, I will be respectful, and I will be willing to repair. When you live by that, feedback stops being a scary event and becomes a normal part of healthy relationships and strong performance. Your voice is valuable because clarity prevents damage. Every time you speak honestly with control, you build trust. Every time you receive truth without defense, you grow. This is how you turn feedback into strength instead of stress. Chapter 13: Communicating with Heart, Clarity, and Calm Under Pressure. Emotion makes communication resonate. People remember how you made them feel. Emotional tone adds depth, whether you are expressing excitement, empathy, concern, or passion. Often it is not only the content of someone's words that moves you, but the feeling behind them. This is the part many people misunderstand. They believe communication is mostly logic, mostly correct words, mostly good arguments. But human beings are not machines. We are nervous systems. We are memory. We are mood. We are trust. That is why two people can say the same sentence and get completely different results. The words might be identical, but the emotional signal is different. If you want your communication to land, you cannot remove emotion from it. You also cannot let emotion hijack it. The goal is not to be cold. The goal is to be steady. The goal is to speak with feeling and still keep control of your direction. Speaking with emotion builds connection, especially when it is authentic. Authenticity draws people in. Empathy is emotional communication, and empathy is not agreement. It is acknowledgement. It says, I see you, I hear you, I understand what you are going through. That builds trust. This is where being leaf in communication is not weakness, it is strength. Kindness is not softness without boundaries. Kindness is clarity delivered in a way that protects the relationship. Kindness is the choice to not punish someone with your mood. When someone feels your sincerity, they relax. When they relax, they listen. When they listen, solutions become possible. Communication without emotion can feel flat and disconnected. Even valuable information loses impact when delivered with indifference. Speak with intent and feeling. You do not need to perform. You do not need to be dramatic. You just need to be present. Presence adds warmth without effort. Presence sounds like a calm voice. It looks like eye contact. It feels like a person who is actually there. People do not need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. A simple way to practice this is to let your voice reflect your intention. If your intention is support, let your tone soften. If your intention is clarity, let your tone steady. If your intention is appreciation, let your tone warm up. You can train this. It is not a gift, it is awareness. Balance is crucial. Too much emotion can overwhelm, too little can disengage. A good communicator knows when to emphasize and when to soften. Timing matters here too. A well-timed pause allows the weight of your words to sink in and gives listeners time to process. When you feel a strong emotion, you do not have to suppress it, you just have to slow it down. You give yourself a breath before you speak. You choose one sentence instead of 10. You name what is true without letting the emotion become a storm. If you are upset, try this. State the emotion in a clean way, then state the need. I feel stressed about this and I need clarity. I feel hurt by what happened and I want to talk about it calmly. I feel overwhelmed and I need a moment. This keeps your emotion honest and your message usable. Now, overthinking blocks clarity. It traps you in hesitation, second guessing, and mental rehearsals that never end. The result is often silence, awkwardness, or a message that arrives too late. Overthinking is not intelligence. Overthinking is fear trying to disguise itself as preparation. It is the mind trying to guarantee safety by controlling every possible outcome. But conversations do not work like that. You cannot plan every reaction. You cannot predict every interpretation. So the goal is not to think less. The goal is to think better. The goal is to stop rehearsing perfection and start practicing presence. Instead of chasing perfect phrasing, focus on clear intention. Organize your main points, speak simply, and allow yourself to be human. If you want something practical, use this small routine before you speak. Ask yourself, what is my point? Then ask, what do I want to happen next? If you can answer those two questions, you are ready to speak. You do not need a flawless script. You need direction. You need one honest sentence. The next sentence will come. Overthinking also shows up as worrying about how you look, how you sound, and how you will be judged. Return to presence. Focus on the other person, the purpose of the conversation, and the next honest sentence. If you're stuck in your head, do one thing: shift your attention outward. Ask the other person a question. Notice their face, notice their tone, notice what they might need. The moment you move from performance to connection, your nervous system calms down. And when you do make a small mistake, do not turn it into a crisis. Smile lightly, correct yourself, continue. People trust the person who can stay calm through a small stumble. That is emotional control in real life. Stress raises the stakes. Under pressure, people rush, misinterpret, and react emotionally. But stress does not have to mean poor communication. Your skill under pressure can become your advantage. In stressful situations, most people either become sharp and aggressive or they become quiet and avoidant. Both responses create problems. The disciplined response is different. You become slower, clearer, kinder, more precise. That is not natural at first, it is trained. It is what you practice until it becomes your default. When stress rises, return to calm, focus on the message, listen actively, use empathy. Calm starts in the body. Breathe low and slow, relax your jaw, drop your shoulders. Even a small physical reset changes your voice and your pacing. Then you return to the basics. What is happening? What matters most? What is the next step? A calm communicator does not add fuel. They remove fuel. They reduce guessing. They reduce tension. They create a small island of clarity in the middle of chaos. Ask clarifying questions to prevent misunderstanding. Under stress, assumptions multiply. Questions bring clarity and keep the focus on the real issue instead of letting the conversation spiral. Under pressure, people fill gaps with stories. They do not respect me. They are trying to blame me. This will go wrong. Those stories might be true, but they might also be fear. Questions bring you back to reality. What exactly do you need right now? What is the priority? What is the deadline? What part is unclear? What is the main risk? These questions are not only for work, they help in family stress too. What is worrying you the most? What would help you feel supported? Do you want advice or do you want me to listen? That one question alone can save a relationship from unnecessary tension. Take a brief pause when needed. Even when you feel pressure to respond quickly, taking a moment to gather your thoughts improves your words and reduces conflict. A pause is a reset button. It prevents the fast, emotional reply you will regret later. It gives you space to choose a better sentence. It also signals maturity. You are showing that you are not impulsive, you are deliberate. If you need a phrase, use one. Give me a second. Let me think. I want to respond well. These sentences are powerful because they protect the conversation. Avoid defensive or aggressive speech. Use calm, non-confrontational language. Use I statements rather than accusations. When people are stressed, you statements feel like attacks. You always do this. You never listen. You are the problem. Those sentences might express your frustration, but they rarely improve anything. Try the disciplined version. I feel concerned about the timing. I want to make sure we are aligned. I am not comfortable with that approach. I need a clearer plan. You can still be firm. You can still set boundaries. You just do it without humiliation. If tension becomes too high, suggest a short break. A break helps people cool down and reset so the conversation can continue with clearer perspective. This is not avoidance, it is leadership. It sounds like, I want this to go well and I feel this is getting heated. Can we take 10 minutes and come back? You are not running away. You are protecting the relationship and the outcome. Now here is what I want you to try, starting today in real life in small moments. Do not wait for a big conversation. Train in normal conversations because that is how the skill becomes natural. First, practice the one breath pause before you respond when you feel emotion rising. One breath, then speak. Second, practice replacing assumptions with questions. If you feel yourself guessing, ask. Third, practice one clean I statement in situations where you normally blame or withdraw. Fourth, practice one small act of warmth in your tone each day, especially in messages. A simple "thanks for letting me know" or "I appreciate you" or "that makes sense" can change the emotional climate of a conversation. Fifth, practice closing conversations with clarity. So the next step is this: we agreed on that. I will do this by Friday. Clarity reduces stress for everyone. And be gentle with yourself while you train. Improving communication is a journey. Every step brings you closer to becoming a better version of yourself. By listening more, speaking clearly, and connecting with meaning, you change how you interact with the world. Keep practicing, stay confident. Every conversation is an opportunity to grow. The power to communicate well is in your hands. Use it wisely, and it will take you farther than you ever imagined.
Want the written version? Grab the PDF for half a cup of coffee, $2. Link is in the description and the comments.